We do have one speaker tonight, and just let me remind the board welcomes comments from the audience about issues being discussed. It's recommended that request to speak be submitted prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes for each speaker, and they will be timed. It's inappropriate to address the board about individual students or individual staff members by name in open meeting. If you have concerns about individuals, these concerns should be addressed through the appropriate administrative supervisors, either in the school or in the district office. And our first speaker tonight is Robert Mundy.
Greetings and a very Merry Christmas to you all. I want you to imagine tonight that you are in a courtroom and it's the universe versus the educational system of these United States of America. Noah Webster in 1832 told us, "The religion which has introduced civil liberty is the religion of Christ and his apostles, which enjoys humility, piety, benevolence, which acknowledges in every person a brother or a sister and a citizen with equal rights. This is genuine Christianity, and to this we owe our free constitution of government." United States Court of Appeals, 8th District Circuit, 1980. Stated that the performance and study of religious songs inclusive of Christmas carols is constitutional, provided the purpose is the advancement of the student's knowledge of society's cultural and religious heritage, as well as the provision of an opportunity for students to perform a full range of music, poetry, and drama that is likely to be of interest to the students and their audience. Then I want to quote from John Quincy Adams, who was a great historian, and at least 50 of our signers stated that we were founded as a Christian nation. Are you teaching that to our students, sir, and board? Why is it that the next to the birthday of the Savior of the world, your most joyous and most venerated festival returns on this day? Is it not that in the chains of human events, the birthday of the nation is indissolubly linked with the birthday of the Savior, that it forms a leading event in the progress of the gospel dispensation? Is it not that the Declaration of Independence first organized the social compact on the foundation of the Redeemer's mission upon earth, that it laid the cornerstone of human government upon the first precepts of Christianity, and gave it to the world the first irrevocable pledge of the fulfillment of the prophecies announced directly from heaven at the birth of the Savior and predicted by the greatest of the Hebrew prophets 600 years before? Noah Webster was supposed to be the founder of modern education. He says it's impossible to govern without the Bible. Now, the eyes of the nation and the eyes of the nations of this earth are upon this meeting tonight. There's power enough to make that happen, and it is happening. This is the buckle on the Bible belt. If we don't get back to the precepts that were there when I went through study in Central High School, we're going to see further dropouts. We're going to see more vile wickedness and whatever. This blessed book, the Holy Bible, was in the public schools. The birth of our Christ scenes were in the public schools when I went. I want to just read as an exhibit for Yahweh, the King of glory. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards all men. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying once again, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men. Don't rewrite our history, and don't lie to our children. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Okay, moving on, we have several special recognitions tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ritter and do those. So
It's always great to see a bunch of students in the audience, and so we're teaching them what I would call true democracy here tonight, right? So anyway, to celebrate that, of course, Ms. Krause, if you would, please.
Good evening. I'd like to ask Miss Cindy Deskin to come forward. Cindy was recently named Missouri Adaptive Physical Education Teacher of the Year by the Missouri Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And we're all very proud of Cindy and the work she does every day with our students. She goes to 9 sites regularly, serves about 100 students. She's a CPI, which is Crisis Prevention Intervention Instructor for the district. She is certified in yoga for special needs students and was instrumental in starting the swimming program at Central a few years ago. And Cindy goes above and beyond in her volunteer work with the community and doing things for students with disabilities. And so she's very deserving of this award. And so we just wanted to bring that to your attention tonight and celebrate her as part of our staff.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I could have only received this award. I'm surrounded by great people, and they prop me up, and the teachers that I work with are just as deserving as I am. So thank you very much for your time.
Cindy, do you have a favorite student?
Depends upon which day you ask me.
Good answer. Good answer. Thank you.
congratulations, Cindy. Thank you, Amy.
To celebrate Central's full accreditation, Dr. Harrell, please. Is he here? There he is.
I was standing, you just couldn't see me.
I didn't say anything. Who said that?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. It is my pleasure to announce to you and to bring forward to congratulate them and celebrate the accomplishments of Central High School. Back in October, Central underwent the North Central Association accreditation visit under the umbrella of Advanced Ed. This is a very enjoyable thing to prepare for. It takes about 18 months to prep, and it's a lot of work. And as I well expected, Central came through with absolutely flying colors, scoring at the highest level possible in 5 out of 7 categories. We were very proud of them and the effort they put forward. And so here to say a few words and discuss that achievement is Dr. Ron Snodgrass, Principal of Central High School. Dr. Snodgrass?
I have, this is one of those things that requires a team effort. And from the get-go, I knew I had to put a couple people in charge to help in the process. And Charlotta Poppins, our A-plus coordinator, and Lisa Anderson, one of my assistants, were the co-coordinators of this. And we involved the faculty from the very beginning that we had. Everybody's hand was in on this. And they divided the staff, and there's 7 standards that you're judged against. And so everybody took a piece of the pie and worked towards the visit, that 2-day visit when the kind of independent auditors, if you will, came and viewed our school and talked to people. And I want to just share, and then I'll let you say something if you want. When they're finished on the day 2, they meet with me privately, and they give me the kind of the what they're going to tell the staff. And they said it was what they were very complimentary, and they commended Central High School. And they said, I wrote these down. The Quality Assurance Review Team commended Central High School for these things. Central High School has a culture of acceptance and a celebration of diversity. Stakeholders at Central High School take pride in their rich history and tradition. The vision and purpose, which is excellence in teaching and learning for all, academic excellence, global citizenship, and celebration of diversity, lives in every aspect of school life. Central's nationally recognized media program, which you'll hear more about in a little bit, promotes community relationships and global understanding. A positive relationship with the community affords Central students access to college speakers, tutors, work-related credit options, and experiences seldom available in other high schools. So those were the commendations that they listed for our school. And as Dr. Harold mentioned, there are 7 standards you're judged on. To receive full accreditation, they give you a score of operational in all those, and that's really what you're shooting for, is just to be operational. But there is a higher category, and that's designated as highly functional. In Standard 1, Vision and Purpose, we were ranked highly functional. Standard 2, Governance and Leadership, highly functional. Standard 3, Teaching and Learning, highly functional. Standard 4, Documenting and Using Results, operational. Standard 5, Resources and Support Systems, highly functional. Standard 6, Stakeholder Communications and Relationships, operational. And Standard 7, A Commitment to Continuous Improvement, highly functional. 5 out of the 7 were highly functional, and the chair of the visiting committee told me privately that she's done a lot of these, and she's never seen a school get that many highly functional. And that's a kind of a rare occurrence. Well, it's a very proud moment for our school and the school district that we scored as high as we did. And Charlotta, you want to say something?
All I'll say, it was a great opportunity to learn more about Central High School and learn a lot about the Springfield school system. They were very instrumental in helping us all along the way. Whatever we needed, they were glad to get us. And so it was a great opportunity, and we enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you.
We're just glad it's only, every 5 years. Yeah. Thank you.
Charlotta. Did Lee help you or get in the way?
A little bit of help.
Oh, good. Okay. That's her husband. Sorry.
Congratulations, Central. That's amazing. It's fantastic.
Now, this is why all the kids are here, or the students, I should say, young men and women are here, is to celebrate this, the Pacemaker Award. And so, Dr. Harrell, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ritter. You know, we'll think of mainstream media, and oftentimes we hear of Pulitzer Prize awards. When you're dealing with media for our students at the high school level, collegiate level, that prize is a Pacemaker Award. It is very rare indeed, and we are very fortunate to be in a district where many of these have been won, and we continue to come back year after year with different programs. It is my pleasure to introduce for the first time, though, Glendale High School's principal, Dr. Matt Pierce, as he will celebrate their first Pacemaker Award for a newspaper edition. Dr. Pierce.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell, members of the board. I'm just very proud of our students. They do a wonderful job. I have my advisor here, Mrs. Beth Eggleston, and she will share with you who's here and a little bit about our program.
I'm happy to have students Drew Vigay, will you stand up please? Josh Jungan and Ryan Collins, who is our co-editor-in-chief this year. I would love to take credit for some of this Pacemaker fame. However, this is my first year as journalism advisor at Glendale, so the credit goes truly to the students. They overcame a lot of adversity last year. They lost their long-term advisor to a long-term medical leave in the middle of the year last year, and then they had a long-term sub, Judy Wilson, who helped them along through the rest of the year. I have seen firsthand their motivation, their hardworking ways, and their unwillingness to settle for anything less than the best. So it's a true joy to work with them, and credit goes to them. Thank you.
Also with us this evening, we have Central High School's Central Intelligence Media Program led by Ms. Nicole Lemon. And Dr. Snodgrass is here to celebrate that as well, as we recognize their second consecutive Pacemaker Award. Dr. Snodgrass?
Well, as I mentioned with previous commendations from our review team, this was one of the things that stood out when they came and visited Central was CI, as we know, Central Intelligence in this program, and what notoriety it's brought to the school, and it's a credit to the hard work and dedication of these students, but also great leadership by Nicole. So I'll let her explain kind of where they are and how well they've done so far this year.
It's good to be back and see all of you again. I'd like to thank Dr. Snodgrass and Dr. Harrell and Dr. Ritter and the board. We do call a lot for interviews, and we always get calls back, so Teresa Bledsoe, thank you for that. We did win our second consecutive pacemaker this year, which we were very, very excited about. We actually attended the national convention, and I want to brag on him a little bit, not take up too much time, but we were up for 3 Story of the Year awards, which we haven't been before. A news story, feature story, and sports story. We won our News Story of the Year award, which was a piece we did on air quality at Central. We got second place in feature for our coverage of our special education program, and I think some of you have seen the work that we do on that. And then Hallie Bruton brought home another sports award, so I'm very proud of them. And then we also competed against 2,000 students in the on-site awards, and we won 12 Superior Awards. That's more than any other school in the country. They kept saying our name, and we were getting lots of eye rolls, but we were cheering for sure. So you have to understand that some of those contests require them to shoot on-site, do a package in 4 hours. It was pouring rain that day, and they did it with smiles on their faces and suits and somehow stayed looking nice on camera, so I was very proud of them. And so I just want to recognize a couple of people, and they're a little bit late, which was my fault. But Mitchell Trafford, who I'm sure will run in here in a second, is a second-time winner in his category for broadcast package. Brittany's here, and she is our news director. She also won. They were ones running around in the rain in heels and a red suit, so she did it. Alex Grant and Isabel Bala, who's here, they won for in-camera feature, which does not allow them to edit at all, which is great. There's Alex. And then he was the one I was just speaking of. Nate and Raleigh won for their feature story on, if you haven't been to Central lately, we have a special ed coffee program that delivers coffee to our teachers in the morning. It's amazing. Great, great piece of work. And then Hallie Bruton and Yunji Kim, who's here tonight, won for sports story. Sam Harris, Emily O'Reilly, and Sarah Smith, who are here tonight, did a PSA for Children's Miracle Network, which you will see start airing on KY3 as we get closer to their telethon, and it won a Superior Award. And then Valerie Cork won for on-air commentary. And then Ian Kelly and Sarah Smith got excellent awards. Sarah Swango and Kinsey Inman also got excellent awards. Kinsey worked on a documentary on the Cocoa Honors program from their trip to Tanzania this summer. Then Alex Stapp and Caroline Cressman for a podcast on a drug rehabilitation program run out of Kabul, Missouri. So we cover lots of different things. I just want to give a couple special recognitions. Brittany Donnell and Ian Kelly are seniors. They're leaving us this year, but they've won Student Emmy Awards, First in the Nation coverage. They're a great team, so I'm really, really happy to have them. And then Mitchell Trafford, who isn't here yet, but I call him the Dream Team. Won numerous First in the Nation awards, hasn't been beat in the category he's competed in, carried it all the way through his 3 years of high school, and won a Student Emmy. Nate and Raleigh Cavero have won numerous Emmys, and they're both up for early admission to Stanford because of their work, and so we're crossing our fingers for them. And then Hallie Bruton hasn't been beat in sports coverage since she was a sophomore in high school, just keeps winning. So I'm really, really proud of them. And she's going to go to Mizzou, and I know she'll be on ESPN someday. So thank you guys for having us here tonight. And it's a great honor to represent Springfield Public Schools. When we're at nationals, they know Springfield Public Schools, and that's a great thing. So thank you very much.
And also with us this evening, we have Principal Jay Rush from Hillcrest High School and the media sponsor of HTV, Mr. Dave Davis, as we celebrate their unprecedented national leading 11th Pacemaker Award. Mr. Rush.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be here, and it's always awe-inspiring the work that our students do in HTV. Every year, they're like a World Series team. They get dismantled at the end of the year, and they bring in new players or free agents, and they continue to produce quality work with integrity and honesty. And it's always a pleasure to be able to go down and interact with them, view their newest publication, and then be able to sit down and critique it with them. No further delay from me. I'll have Mr. Davis come up and introduce the students.
Certainly appreciate the baseball analogy, Mr. Rush. Thanks once again for not telling me I had to speak tonight. I would like to introduce, well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to Central and Glendale, because to have 3 schools in the same school district bring home Pacemaker Awards, I don't know that it's unprecedented, but it's unusual. And I also know that this is the first school district that's had 2 different schools win the Broadcast Pacemaker Award in the same year, so that's pretty cool. I had a really trying year personally last year, and I was out a little bit, and even when I was with these kids, sometimes maybe my attention wasn't fully with them with some things going on. So it's a very special award for me to talk about, because they were able to pull through despite their coaching, I think, last year. And I'll just let it is our 11th Pacemaker Award, but you know, it's an interesting award. You never really know for sure if you're. I mean, I really think Nicole would probably agree. We probably should have both won it a couple of years ago. Well, we won't go there. But anyway, here's our 2 staff leaders last year were Olivia Tinkler and Chelsea Ray. They were our co-news directors, which is our top staff position. I'll let them say something, and I'll not.
Well, we all worked really hard together. With Coach being gone a lot of the time, we had to pull together, and everyone helped each other with stories, even who were involved on them. And I think that our success just came from all of our teamwork and everyone pulling together to get things done this last year.
There's a lot to say about being a part of HTV, but I think personally for Chelsea and myself, the biggest honor you can get is to carry on its tradition of the awards it wins and the quality show we produce.
So thank you for
thank you very
us.
much.
Are there any parents? Just raise your hand, parents. Are there any parents? Oh, okay. Well, thanks for coming. Great kids. A lot to look forward to, good and bad.
It's all good.
We'll give it a second so they can. You're welcome to stay if you'd like to sit through it, but you know, I understand totally.
Do a better job than
Yeah, maybe we can have them write the article and see if it'll come out positive. I'm sure there's something.
those calls.
I think it's pretty incredible that you've got that kind of media journalism
Awesome.
results in this district. I think that's amazing. We all should be very proud of that. Okay. Are there any modifications to the agenda? Anybody have any modifications they'd like to make? If not, we will approve the agenda as presented. Under President's Report, do want to recognize, as we always do, a lot of our partners in education who really do great things in the schools with our kids and our teachers and staff. And so I'd like to run through some of our partners that we got, and then we have a special presentation after that. BKD, Borders, Bordeaux Pizza, City Utilities, Dairy Farmers of America, Educational Community Credit Union, Emmanuel Baptist, Joe Sharp, Macy's, Kraft Foods, McDonald's at West Republic, National Heights Baptist Church, Oak Grove Assemblies of God, O'Reilly Auto Parts, and Papa John's Pizzas. And certainly thank them for their help and contributions that they make to our kids in our schools. In light of that, I'm going to introduce Josie McPhail to spotlight one of our real key partnerships that we have in the district, and I will let Josie introduce our special presenter.
Following student celebrations is always a hard task, but we'll do our best. This evening, our Partners in Education highlight is courtesy of the Ozarks Regional YMCA. And we all know this is a long-lasting partnership, and they provide all kinds of resources for our students and staff. Each year, about 1,800 SPS students alone are served by this great organization. Their partnership with the district is primarily through the Primetime program, and that takes on many different roles, including the primary years and summer Odyssey programs. In addition, the Y also provides after-school activities for teens and often donates facility passes and resources for district use. In order to provide all of these great opportunities, we know that takes money and resources. So the Y raises funds and solicits grants using their own resources to provide those resources for our kiddos. The total value of aid provided to SBS students alone by the Y is over $240,000 each year. So here to tell us a little bit more about this wonderful partnership is CEO of the Ozarks Regional YMCA, Brad Toft.
Thank you, Josie. And first let me say, I agree with Josie, it's hard to follow those kids, I tell you. It's pretty impressive. I have 3 kids in the district, 2 at Kickapoo and 1 at Cherokee. They've been through the McBride, Wilson's Creek track, and they've had a great experience, and I know my kids are getting a good education. We are, as the Ozark Regional YMCA, please know that we are deeply honored and proud to have partnered with you for over 25 years to serve the youth in our community. As Josie said, our Primetime program serves about 1,800 kids every year. There was a brochure that was handed out that really kind of outlines exactly what that program does, but it's a curriculum-based program, before and after school care, it's housed in your school buildings before and after school. The curriculum focuses on healthy living, tutoring, exercise, and social development. We really try to take a professional approach to caring for those kids. We not only provide that base care for the families that need it, we also try to provide them the basis and framework for them to be successful in life. Of those 1,800 kids last year, 366 of them received financial assistance, totaling, as Josie said, $240,000. In addition to that, we work with about 186 kids that receive state funding through the DFS program. Most of the needs are evident, our financial aid need is evident in what we refer to the block grant schools of Campbell, Bissett, Bowerman, Westport, Robertson, Boyd. We do get CBDG funding for those schools, and that funding covers about 2 months of the 9 months of care that is necessary. The last 7 months, the Y provides about 70% assistance, 90% assistance to those families. Some families don't pay anything, some pay a little bit, but we know it's important that they are able to receive that care. The program also funds to the district by paying for facility usage of about $60,000 to the district. In addition to that, we share revenue with you of $60,000 a year. And so having the program partnering with us actually is a revenue source for the district of $120,000 annually. We work with the schools involved in the primary year programs, Roundtree, Field, and Boyd. Those are situations that we work with the principal to find out what they need for that individual school. In some cases, we offer extended care. In others, the principal may think that we need to get the kids out of the building, and so we've done field trips to our facilities. We really try to work hard to keep an open line of communication with the principals. We know that's important. We want to partner with them to do what's best for that individual community. We've done surveys, we hold focus groups twice a year, and we really work hard to try to fill the needs of that individual school. We also serve teens. We have a youth in government and model UN program at the high school age. That's a leadership program that really teaches kids the legislative process. It kind of crescendos to the end where they actually go to Jefferson City and take over the state capitol with other youth in government participants and have a mock legislative session. We serve 35 teens in other after-school programs. The majority of those are at Carver, where we have an on-site after-school program there. We also fill in the gaps. During the summers, we provide what we call Summer Odyssey, which is basically our summer child care. We do that through 3 of the school sites and then also our buildings in town. When you don't have school because of snow or other scheduled non-student participation day, we provide care for the families at the facilities that we have. Over the years, we've tried to partner with you and be as cooperative as we can in terms of providing incentives for classes for attendance so that they can come and use our rock climbing wall. We've been a site for the alternative school to utilize our facilities as a field trip for them. And really, we feel so proud of the relationship that we have with you that we want to work with you to solve the needs that exist in this community. In closing, I'd just like to share a story. We had a young boy named Jimmy in one of our child care sites, and our staff noticed that Jimmy was struggling a bit. He was getting mad pretty quick. He wasn't relating well with his peers, and he was just struggling. So a male staff member called him and pulled him aside and just started a conversation. That conversation really opened a floodgate with Jimmy. He was upset because his permanent placement fell through. Jimmy was removed from his home, placed in foster care. He would not call his foster family a family because that was reserved for his forever family. We work with kids to try to give them, to help them through times that they may be struggling. And in Jimmy's case, we provided a positive role model. We acknowledged him as a worthwhile child. We helped him interact with his peers. And ultimately, we know when we can do those things with kids that we're going to give them a better opportunity for success in the future. And we do that, and we try to do that for 1,800 kids every year in partnership with you. We are very honored to be a partner, and I would entertain any questions that you have.
Questions for Brad? And I know you also, Project Graduation in the past has been a...
We've done, I've had my staff try to figure out everything we've done, and it's a pretty comprehensive list.
That's a major one come May.
You know, and we also have worked with you guys with your wellness policy and tried to engage your staff in living a healthier lifestyle, which is a positive thing for the community as well.
Well, we appreciate everything you do, Brad.
Just one comment, and it's apparent in your presentation that the seamless nature of the work you do with the schools, and I think that's really, I mean, most of our partners do that, and we work with them, but it's with the Y, it always seems so seamless that you don't know if it's the Y or the site that's providing that service, and that's really good for kids. I think it's good for parents. It's good for the community. So I really am appreciative of that.
Thank you. That is a positive thing. We wish people knew it was us, though. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Moving on to Superintendent's Report, Dr. Ritter.
Today we gave out the Star Catcher Award. We took a different approach to the Star Catcher Award this year. We basically had pulled in nominations from the community, from the sites, from the students, and ultimately came down to 4 people. Teresa, help me, or I'm pretty sure we're on track here. But anyway, we came down to four people, and then eventually we had a vote. And just really excited about the Star Catcher winner, who is Dina Butcher, who is a English teacher, sophomore English teacher primarily at Kickapoo. The main reason I feel she won is that she is cutting edge as far as her approach to instruction in the classroom. When you walk in there, the kids are really engaged. And then also the other thing is that Pay It Forward is a program that she started. Basically, it's a charitable program working with kids at Kickapoo who basically identify certain groups of populations that, and I believe the newsletter featured Pay It Forward a couple weeks ago, I think it was. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that she received the Star Catcher Award today, and the gift that she got, by the way, she really treasured, and that was a night stay at what's the name of that lodge down in Branson? Big Cedar, yes.
Branson Bell?
No. I should have known. I shouldn't have left that open.
Got some cheap tickets, that's for sure.
I should have recognized that. I'm sorry. But anyway, so congratulations to her. Another thing is that I've had an opportunity to participate and or watch and observe holiday programs really a neat stuff going on as far as holiday programs. Saw the field kids perform, saw the Glendale choir, women's choir here, and then also saw Glendale's choir, Kickapoo's choir. Last night I participated and I was part of the Parkview program, which was entertaining, and did the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Anyway, just really a great focus on holiday spirit, and a wonderful thing. Our attendance is much stronger this year than last year. Of course, H1N1 had a lot to do with it, but no, it's very, very strong, and I'm very excited about that. Another thing I want to do is I want to recognize David Harrison for all the work he's done in organizing reading at the different places, especially at Borders and Barnes & Noble, but also reading, just fundraising for books to support our libraries. And so David Harrison has done an awesome job, as he always does, to support our kids. So those are the highlights that I have. Oh, next, I almost forgot. We are the largest, I'll repeat it, we are the largest accredited school district in the state of Missouri. And here is the official notice of that. And so I thought you could put this on your wall and frame it. But
we're still at.
I do want to say, though, that Dennis Cooper did walk into into each of our sites, and I don't think he did get into every classroom, but almost every classroom, and was extremely impressed. And so the accreditation was something that he definitely, with pride, supported. And so I thought you should have a copy of this, and really a very, very nice thing that, like I said, you can frame. This time I'd like to kind of change and shift a little bit, and I'd like to have Mr. Chodas share with you a conversation we had with our leadership team last Wednesday, and he's going to give you an update on the revenue as we see it, and project a little bit of a budget conversation here, and then I'm going to share with you the conversation I had with the leadership team last Wednesday. So, Mr. Chodas, if you would please. Or you need some help.
Just a second.
Okay. You're technically, so am I.
Well, congratulations on the M7
Yep, thank you.
accreditation.
Yep.
Before I start talking numbers, which I'm going to do in the next few minutes, let me preface this by saying that the numbers that I'm presenting are based on November figures, and this is the earliest in my tenure that we've done a revenue projection for next year. Please keep in mind that 80% of our revenue is received after November. So with that said, the first thing we're going to look at is current taxes. Current taxes represent more than 50% of our non-grant operating revenue. There are a number of components in the calculation of the property taxes. These include assessed values, TIF numbers, new construction, CPI, prior year tax rate ceiling, prior year revenue from state assessed property. It's a fairly complex calculation. Thank goodness for Excel. Assessed values, we've been fortunate in Southwest Missouri. We have not, at least yet, experienced a decline in assessed values, as have many other areas in Missouri have experienced a decline. This next year will be a reassessment year, and just to put it in perspective, this year we're looking at about a $1.7 million increase. 4 years ago, and it tends to run on a 4-year cycle, 4 years ago the increase was $4.7 million, so quite a bit of a reduction. Last year, $90 million, or over 95% of the property tax revenue was received in December through February. So I'm doing my best projection here, but there's still a lot of, or most of the numbers still to come. Sales tax is the next one I want to talk about. I'm not going to go through every one of these. Our sales tax is a statewide number. It's allocated based on attendance, and it's allocated based on statewide sales tax revenue. So oftentimes we'll see that the city has experienced an increase in their sales tax. That does not bear a relationship to what we receive. The trend on this has been down, as you can see. I think it's easy to spot where the economy kind of went in the tank. We are projecting $17.8 million. As you can see, in 07-08 it was 19.8, and that's when we started the decline. This year we're running a little better than budget, but I'm still going to be conservative and say we're tracking on budget, and that next year we'll go up only $100,000, not a significant amount. The next number is the M&M surcharge, and I'm going to read what that is. That is replacement tax on commercial real estate to replace revenue lost with the elimination of the merchants and manufacturing business inventory tax. And that number comes in February as a lump sum, and once again you can see that we've been fortunate. Actually last year it went up. This year I'm keeping a conservative number, saying that it will come in right at budget, $6.8 million, and am only projecting a $100,000 increase for next year. Total local, you can see it's a little over $125 million, which is about $1.6 million higher than the projection, and the vast majority, if not all of that, is in property taxes. On the county side, $2.1 million, and it holds relatively constant from year to year, so not a big change there. Transportation, as we all know, we have seen a significant decline in the transportation funding from the state. If you look at the green numbers in 09-10, I want to point out that those two actually should be totaled together to show what the transportation funding was. The state had us break out the stimulus portion of that transportation funding and show it as federal. So really the transportation funding in 09-10 was just under $2.3 million, and as you can see, we're almost half of that now.
Steve, can I stop you? What's your basis for thinking that we're going to hold steady in 2011, 2012?
Nothing to the contrary.
Okay.
I
know that got gouged.
Yes, it did. It did this year, significantly. And also to put that in perspective, our transportation cost is about $7 million per year.
So that's just because you've not heard that they're going to do further cuts in it. That's kind of the reason.
Well, that it's not projected to go down. What I'm thinking is that if they do decrease that, then that means there's going to be more for the formula, and vice versa. So it all kind of flows through the state together. Speaking of the formula, once again you have to add the yellow lines because the state's having us show the stimulus portion of the formula on a separate line. As we all know, the stimulus funds were only for 2 years, 9-10 and 10-11, and as you can see in the projection for 11-12, that number we're projecting to disappear, resulting in a significant decrease in state funding. In 09-10, the total of those lines was $43.1 million. This year's budget is $43.9 million. I'm projecting $43.7 million, so relatively close to budget. The 11-12 projection is only $39 million. Looking again at the state total, $41.4 million, about $1 million below the projection. That's all coming from the Classroom Trust Fund, which is based on gambling, which we know is down. And then the federal dropping to $523,000, down from a projection of $4 million, once again because of the stimulus funds. Looking at total operating funds, to put this in perspective, the $169 million that you see here, and once again, this has grants backed out. You'll see grants on the next line below the operating funds. That's to focus on non-grant operating funds. The 11-12 projection of $169 million is almost identical to the 07-08. So virtually no change in the operating revenue over that period of time. And the net is a reduction over the current year projection, a reduction of about $3 million. Obviously, these numbers are subject to change. I will be updating them on a monthly basis. And I would like to conclude by saying that this is a conservative projection. It's not a worst case projection, but a conservative one, and one I'm comfortable with. Any questions?
Ms. Callan.
So if I'm reading this right, and this is what we've been saying all along, that we expect that this year will be the worst year we have to deal with in terms of trying to really play catch up. A lot of that stimulus money we don't anticipate being in play. And I know it's a politically charged issue, but if you look at what that stimulus money allowed us to do locally, it kept us from having to make $16 million worth of cuts over the past couple years. You have to think that that saved jobs. You have to think that that saved good programming, educationally sound programming for children. So I think that that's important. But it's not good news.
I wish they were better.
I know.
Mr. Osmer.
Steve, you said this is conservative but not worst case. And I saw something, I think, Norm, you sent a report about the state's budget.
Right.
And I guess what troubles me is that the governor cut a big chunk out of our budget when we still had $3 million of stimulus money put in there, and he had stimulus money to use for the state's budget. And now he's looking at a shortfall of what, $822 million, something like that.
The vast majority of which is the stimulus that's disappearing.
Well, exactly, but he's going to have to balance the state's budget, and I guess my concern is where he's going to look to balance that budget, and why transportation would not be marked. Why?
I'll try and address that a bit. In the basic formula, under the formula, we should experience an increase in 11-12, and I left it flat. So once again, if they're going to fund the formula and take the money from transportation, then the formula money would go up and transportation down. So that's the logic I use.
What's your definition of funding the formula?
Funding the formula under the formula.
I mean, at what level?
Well,
is 100%
right now it's
funding?
at, I believe, 90
something.
94%, I believe.
But hasn't there already been talk about kind of
Extending
jimmying with that as well?
Yeah,
that's what he's really talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
and I've held that. I have not built in the increase that we should experience under the formula. And I mean, you're right. That is probably the biggest wild card right now. Is what is the state going to do? I don't know if it's going to come from K-12. I don't know if it's going to come from higher ed. I don't know where it's going to come from.
I mean, because it was kind of across the board cuts last year, and now we've got $800 million to further cut.
As bad as we got hit last year, we didn't get hit as bad as some of the other ones. So
We don't depend on state funding.
We don't. No, I mean as far as Springfield, but I mean as far as the statewide education was not hit as hard as some of the other agencies that were funded. So, I mean, what I hear is we're kind of on the front, potentially on the front edge of that. Luckily, we don't get as much state funding, but still, it's a hit. And I think you're real optimistic about transportation. I think that's gone. But, I mean, I know we haven't heard word about that, but officially, but I think
Will the mandates of having to provide transportation for students that live a certain distance also be gone? Do they anticipate?
It will be an unfunded mandate.
Yeah, I just...
Absolutely. But, yeah, I think that will, and who knows what it'll be, and it's way early to, the crystal ball is not very clear right now, but hopefully it'll clear up soon. Dr. Prater?
Not to follow bad news with bad, but most of the consultants are saying that 2012, 2013 we probably won't see a rebound if the economy rebounds until after that. So we may be looking at still a 2-year pattern here.
Right.
Okay.
I wouldn't get optimistic that this is the worst.
Okay.
As much as I'd like to see it would be, I don't. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks for the good news, Steve.
Oh, you ain't here, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's a nice Christmas package, wasn't it?
This is supposed to be a season of joy and celebration. I
think so.
There we go. Go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a conversation I had with the lead team last Wednesday, just to kind of upgrade some of the things that I had mentioned at the last meeting, a regular meeting of the board. Of course, just to remind you, we had the focus group discussions, but also we were getting feedback on a continuous basis up until last week from all the sites. And so constantly getting feedback, everything from we don't need the superintendent to, you know how that goes. But we were getting all the feedback, and we were looking for some patterns and some recommendations, and some good ideas came forward. Then the cabinet then currently is reviewing programs and continuing to look at programs to see where the most value is as far as achievement is concerned. We are currently reducing, in fact, I believe as of today or tomorrow, we are reducing current year expenditures and taking them out of the budget. And we're doing that by department, and we are going to see some savings in that area. So in other words, for the current 2010-2011 year, we are looking to cut some areas there. For the 2011-2012 budget reductions, I am working very hard to really, and it's going to happen. We're going to be moving from cutting edge innovation to more of a compliance type of mode. And basically what's going to happen there is that we're going to be pushing a lot of responsibility. Really, it's going to be more autonomy at the sites, more driven, more purpose, more acuity coming from the sites, and less support from central office because we just won't have it. And so anyway, still looking at that and really planning on that announcement on January the 18th. And then, of course, like I said earlier, we're constantly looking for ways to get more and more feedback from stakeholders. So anyway, that's pretty much kind of a summary up front. And then as far as the restructuring, most of the restructuring that's going to occur and is going to be reduction in administrative staff in the central office. We will not be impacting the sites at all, as far as, I shouldn't say at all, because there's always that possibility. And then, of course, there's going to be some reduction to programs. I do not see us doing away with any programs in particular. We may. We'll see what happens in that as far as restructuring is concerned. As far as the class size, we're going to work very hard to maintain the class size. No promises there. In fact, I guess I wouldn't call it worst case either. I would say it's conservative. With all the reductions I'm going to be doing in central office, we're still going to need to be hit in the classroom. We're still going to see more split classes. We're still going to see more kids in the classroom with the teachers. And a lot of that's going to be responding because right now, you might recall the ERA funds basically allowed us to keep some teachers in the classroom. And we're going to be losing those teachers. And now there is some carryover funds that will help us for another year with that. Not completely, not nearly as well as we have it currently. We are going to make sure that we have quality facilities, environments. It's going to be very safe. And, of course, again, more accountability for that to happen at the sites. We're going to create and provide innovative educational options for our students as well as our parents as much as possible. And it may mean fine-tuning. It may mean introducing more choice and pushing something else out. And so we're going to constantly be keeping that cutting edge that way. So, again, like I said, we're going to be really trying to build a community around the school. In other words, this community of Springfield loves its kids. The community of Springfield loves its schools. It is really all about local control. And so really the site, the principal, the teachers, and the parents all need to rally around that site and really have ownership of that school. And that's really what we're going to be pushing and encouraging to occur because that's really how things are going to happen and help us as far as achievement is concerned. So I'm going to ask Mark and his team to develop a plan for that at each of the sites. Okay? So the impact is this: loss of services to the sites. Loss of services that basically may have been helping with families and family needs, as well as helping with the adult learner and helping the adult learner get better and stronger. Those are the types of things that we're going to see less of at the sites. Additional responsibility and accountability, more responsibility for effective site-based professional learning. I really feel in visiting the sites that our leadership at the sites is very strong. And so we probably can tolerate this for a year or two, but still, I don't care. All of us know how learning is critical and how it's important for us to keep staff development fresh and present in the minds of our leaders. And so we may get by with a year or two, but for us to continue to have the best for kids, we're going to have to hope that this is all over in about a year, 2 years. Okay. Then the reallocation of funds, we may be finding programs where we're going to be moving funds from one program to another to a bit more focus on that program. And it could be meaning moving more funds from the central office or central sites into the buildings themselves. So when it says there, reallocation of funds to programs with demonstrated success and that meet key stakeholder requirements, that's really what we're talking about. So pretty much the picture, and by January 18th, you'll have a good sense of the central office and what the central office looks like. It's proposed, and then after that, it's really going to all happen at the site as far as any kind of cuts that we're going to have. And so the community will feel the impact at that point. Any questions, anybody?
Any question from the board?
Just a little clarity on once you get to your January 18th announcement and decisions as central administration, you say then it goes then to the site level as to how it's going to be cut. I guess
what I'm talking about there is that basically we're going to be probably cut central office as much as we can. Now we're going to be cutting teachers to be able to, we'd like to maintain class size, but we feel we're going to probably have to get into cutting teachers. This is all going to be done, a lot of it's going to be done through attrition, but still we're going to impact class size. We're going to have bigger classes and more split classes. That's what I meant by going to the sites.
Okay. And then this is early in your comments, and you're talking about what you were doing for expenditures, cutting back on expenditures for this year. Just a couple of examples or something that we can kind of hang our hat on. What are we doing?
Well,
I know in transportation, Mr. Emmerling is doing an outstanding job there, and I believe we're reducing overtime by about $150,000.
Okay, and then Anita?
We'll be reducing our expenditures on replacing, repairing equipment and curriculum materials in classrooms, as well as reducing some of our professional learning opportunities that we had planned for teachers for this year. Some materials and supplies, general materials and supplies where we produce things for the sites.
We had a couple positions of early retirements that we did not replace, and that's part of that as well. Mr. Osborne?
You talked a little bit about this in this January 18 report, that you're going through programs and what we've said at the board table, value add, and where's the value in these programs, and what's the impact on achievement? Are we going to be able to see the how you figure this out and what that score is, or what that connection is between that program or that position and student achievement, or is this something that's just going to be something that you've done?
The January 18th is primarily going to be central office. It's not necessarily programs. Now, there might be a program that was supporting the site, and as far as being able to make that connection, it's going to be more along the line of supporting adult learning, that type of thing. And so we won't, and yeah, we'll be able to show the value that's going to be lost in that process. No question about it.
Because I would like to see that before, and I'd like for the board to see that if we're cutting something out of that is going to have an impact on students, then I think the board needs to see that.
Or you're going to see it on the 18th.
Even if you think it's a good idea, that's something that goes directly to what our mission is.
It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. No matter how you look at it, this is not a good idea from here on out. It's pretty ugly. But either way, on the 18th, you're going to get our proposal, okay? And that's when you're going to be able to have a conversation around that. We're still pretty early in the budgeting process by the 18th. I talked to the Ozark Conference superintendents last Thursday. None of them are this far along. They're all waiting for what the state's going to do. And I says, well, good luck. That's May. And well, but their reserves are pretty good sized reserves as well. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to informational items, gifted learning program evaluation. Who's?
That would be Mr. Heckerworth, Dr. Heckerworth, please. Got it right that time.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. The Missouri Improvement Program, Standard 8.1, and Board of Education Policy IM, evaluation of instructional programs, require the goals of all programs or services to be reviewed biannually by the board. Before you, under separate cover tonight, is the 2009-2010 Gifted Education Program Evaluation Report. Mrs. Lene Lizelle, our Gifted Education Coordinator, and I are here tonight to answer any questions that you might have about the report.
Any question, Dr. Ms. Gallen?
I just have a comment. I was really pleased to see the growth of the Bridges program. I know that that's something, since I've been on the board, trying to identify underserved populations of children who have these kinds of educational needs. And so the growth in that really stuck out to me, and I just wanted to mention that and thank the leadership for continuing
Thank you.
on that.
We are very proud of that program.
And I think the more that we can, the more that we can do to offer differentiated instruction to all of our students, the better off all of them will be. So,
Dr. Brenner?
Just maybe a question or comment, however you want to do it. I think we celebrate a lot of achievement here, and it's a pretty impressive report. What sometimes we don't get, and you can enlighten us on it, is the sense that some of these kids are really considered at-risk kids, and had this program not been in place, there may be some unintended consequences of that in terms of graduation rates, attendance rates, things like that. I don't know if you want to comment a little.
Yes, for over 10 years we've been documenting all of the gifted students who have dropped out of high school, and we've seen a decline in that from a high in 1999 of 5% going down to 2%. And we document each of those students, and we find out exactly what happened along the process that we can find out. We find out how many achieved GEDs after the fact, and we can actually chart how many years of services they had through gifted services, and how many of them did not receive any services through gifted education based on IQ. And it's a direct correlation between the two on dropouts and how many years of services that they've had, how many years of gifted services they received.
When you say 2 to 5%, do you mean of the dropouts, 5% were classified with a gifted
scoring in the gifted range on an IQ test given through Springfield Public Schools? Yes.
But now it's down to 2?
Yes. And of that 2%, let's state over like the last 3 years, we've had 28. If we look at that, only 3 of those students had more than 3 years of gifted services. All the rest had either 0 years or less than 3 years of gifted services.
You know, when we get our report about dropout, a lot of times it's just very straightforward by school and by
Number
I
of
think
kids.
seeing some of that drilling down would be helpful. You know, what percentage of those kids receive special education services? What received gifted ed? Because I think particularly when we're talking about budget, and sometimes people see some of these as extras, you know, particularly gifted education, they see it as a target. They see a lot of money that goes in there. And like Dr. Prater was saying, to see the benefits and what that does for children or young people, I think would be really helpful. So.
The more options we provide, you know, that differentiates and responds, and that's really aligned with what Andy was asking earlier. It's going to be very hard as far as programs are concerned because they're all tied to that dropout. They're all tied to keeping them in school, no matter where it's at. So,
just a question about, and you may not have the answer right now, but if you look at the test results and of the students, of the 590 that we have, are exceptionally high scores and do great, which I would certainly hope that would be the case. But I know we have a lot more gifted kids in Springfield School District than are in the actual Wings program. Mm-hmm. One, because of the cutoff that we have, this is higher than what the state has. But do we have any data that compares those kids that are going through the Wings program or the gifted program, comparing those to a peer group that aren't? So I guess what I'm asking is the added value of the Wings curriculum that's there versus those that aren't, but at the same, you can call them at risk or at the same IQ level, and do we compare that data, or do we have access to that data to show because they went to Wings or went to a gifted program?
Right. I'm going to tell you, Dr. Goodman has promised me next semester. Okay. We have been working on this for a while now, and that's just it. When we go through the Cognos, we have been working on our gifted students that are in program and gifted students who are not receiving services. And Dr. Goodman's been able to pull up some information that I still can't get access to, but we are going to be able to show direct correlation between those two.
I mean, I think that would be one of those value-added things that we keep talking about of what the time spent there. I mean, I had kids go through it, and they would have done fine, but I think they may have done better because of that. But I have no way to document. Ms. Hosmer?
Something I've asked before, and I'll ask again, is whether or not we've considered, and I'm sure we've considered, but intentionally thought about making some of these, dropping that middle year scholar program down, so that we have, you know, a choice alternative around for K through 6, K through 5, as opposed to, because everybody that and this is anecdotal, of course, but I've talked to multiple people who have children in the middle years program. It's universally, this is great. I mean, I've not heard anybody, you know, say differently, but a lot of it goes back to, you talk to them, and those kids were having trouble in school. Really, really bright kids, but they're seriously having trouble in their classroom. So, as Chris said, this is almost an at-risk. It's just strange to say that you're a really genius kid, but you're almost an at-risk student. So I wonder whether or not, and obviously it's a funding issue, but whether or not there is a genuine need to create that, and whether other districts have done that, what the data is on it, to not just, because I've been to Phelps and I've talked to teachers and you talk to the kids and one day and then they're back in the school. So one day they're really excited and really just kind of challenged like crazy, and then 4 days a week they're back in their school. And so you think, well, yeah, that's great, but what about the other 4 days of the week where they're not getting challenged? Now, I guess the answer would be, well, you got to learn to differentiate and challenge all your kids, and we hope that happens, but I don't know if that's realistic. So my question is whether or not we've intentionally thought about expanding that or dropping that middle year's scholar program down to bring in those kids.
I can speak specifically because Ms. Preston's right here. If you have met Debbie Preston before, and she is the liaison for the Scholars Program. And in years past, when there's been a little more funding, we have sat down and we've talked fifth grade up and down and really looked to see, would we be able to do this? And with the economy the way it is right now, we wouldn't just jump right in and say this is the year to do it. But I can tell you both she and I are ready to move down to fifth grade anytime we can make that happen. We know that we can do that, and we can do that with not any more money, but back to where maybe we were a few years ago. Yes.
And I guess it gets back to the question of where do we start seeing these problems with these middle year, the scholars, they call scholars now? Where do we start seeing the problems? Do we see it in fourth and fifth grade, or do we actually see it, or could we see it in first and second grade, and and that we address not until they get into sixth grade? Does that make sense? I mean, do we start seeing the problems earlier than fifth grade? Do we
And
see
I
them
think
in
you're going
fourth
to
grade?
speak to different students are going to have different needs, because we're going to have some students that are going to be doing great regardless, and we're going to have some students that are going to have problems regardless. And so when you're talking, do we see first graders? Yes. Do we see students who make it all the way through that don't really experience any at-risk behaviors? Absolutely. So it's kind of hit and miss on that, but what we're really looking at is those middle school years are very difficult, and we really try to focus on those to make sure that they've had the opportunities to continue to grow before they get into high school and before they start making some bad choices. And so we really want to hit that as hard as we can. And sixth grade's where we are right now, and we think that maybe in the future we can maybe talk about some fifth grade.
But there are some full-time models out there for full-time gifted programs, aren't there?
Yeah.
That, I mean, other districts have full-time. Some do.
We've in fact had a full-time gifted program here.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so but I know there's still some in existence right
I know they
now.
extended down at least to first grade.
Yeah.
They did, and that was several years ago.
That was,
I would put the Wolf program against any fifth grade gifted program. Guarantee you get better achievement. Want to put money on it? I'll bet you. But anyway, so the reason I'm introducing that is basically there needs to be flexibility, and the talent needs to be attracted to that flexibility. It's what gives you, and that's what you're saying. They're all different. And so to me, you do not have a set pat program that's going to work.
Not for everybody.
Not for everybody. So I really think that's the only reason I threw that out there. I just want to. But anyway, any other questions?
Any other questions for Elaine? Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.
The thing that's really frustrating is that we need more programs. We're starting to keep more and more of our kids in school, and the more we do that, the more it's costing us, the more. And so, to me, and we've had some outstanding results from our P2G, which is persistence to graduation, and it's feeding into more and more programs. And so, maybe a good pre-K 5 program might be a good math science magnet. See, so there's different things that you could do that's along that line. Anyway, I could go on and on that one. Sorry about that. Okay.
Moving on to 6.02 Extended Learning Program.
Dr. Quinn? You might remember this year we, as far as extended learning program, we cut back on that. And it was part of our budget to be able to keep more teachers in the classroom. So, Dr. Quinn, if you would just kind of share a little bit of the results of that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The extended learning program over the past several years have made several changes. The mission of the extended learning program is to improve reading and at that time mathematics for students that were identified to be performing below grade level in their according to their placement. Over the last this will be the fourth year since I've been over the program. The program it was called Expanded Learning, which also took in the tutoring from the high schools. The mathematics portion of the extended learning was changed basically to tutoring, where we have money that was allotted for the reading program, and then the mathematics part was changed to tutoring, where principals had the discretion to use that money for mathematics, or they could use it for extra reading. So for this year, some of the money that was cut out was about $1,650 for title schools, $1,385 for the non-title schools. The stipends were reduced for the liaisons, and the high school tutoring money was cut. The programs, or the amount of groups that are being served now, we have in the elementaries we have 54 groups. A group is considered 12 to 15 kids. About 4 years ago, a group was considered 6 to 8 kids. So in this process, we've had to add more students in the group. In 08-09, we had 82 elementary groups. In 09-10, we had 74. And this year we have 54. In the middle schools, in 08-09, we had 15 groups. In 09-10, we had 24 groups. And then this year, we do not have any groups in middle school. The funding didn't allow us to do that. The performance series in 08-09 was implemented into the school district. So at that time, some of the schools started with the performance series the first part of the year, and the rest of the schools came on during the year. So that has allowed us to become a little more efficient and consistent with the way we measure our testing. Other things that have been affected for this coming year are the MAP tutoring groups. If we have some extra money left over, and that came from, depending on how many groups we were allotted, we were providing some MAP tutoring for some schools, especially those schools that had not done so well on MAP test. We also provided extra tutoring for some schools that requested the money. So if they had some other groups that they felt like they needed some tutoring, we could provide tutoring for them and some other special groups at the middle school and high school level.
Question for Dr. Quinn. How much of the services that we provide under this budget or this program are, and I'm not talking about whether it's effective or not, I'm talking about resources and activities, is mandatory versus discretionary? I mean, from a state, when we get some state funding from it, how much of that is mandatory that we have to do versus
all of it's local money, but the state mandates for the Senate Bill 319 students, and those are the students we're supposed to provide services for them at least 30 hours during the year and 40 hours in the summer for those students that are more than one grade level below in reading.
That's what we're doing,
That's
basically.
what we're doing.
That's all we're doing.
So state mandated but locally funded.
Right. And we're doing that with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades.
What's wrong with this picture?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Okay. Item 6.03, student capabilities for SPS learning model.
Mrs. Kissinger, please.
Good evening, Mr. Lee, board members, and Dr. Ritter. It's my pleasure tonight to update you on the progress of the development of the SPS learning model, and we're also going to celebrate the work of a committed group of stakeholders who over the past several months have helped define key content for the model. You may recall that last year, 2009, November, you had a strategic planning meeting, and at that meeting you identified one of two key priorities to be that Springfield Public Schools needed to focus on, first identify and then focus on the capabilities that students will need to be successful in the 21st century. About that same time, you may also recall that SPS Envision, which was really a think tank of stakeholders that had been convened for the past couple of years to look at opportunities for improvement for the district, as well as the educational services team, had also identified 21st century student capabilities as a strategic focus. Undergirding the priority is the reality that schools must prepare students for careers that don't yet exist, technologies that we can't even imagine, and a myriad of life circumstances. Recently, our world experienced a very vivid example of this reality as we all watched the Chilean miners trapped and then successfully rescued. This event is a living example of the importance of 21st century capabilities. In this particular experience, profound knowledge was necessary, but it was insufficient. It required those involved to be highly skilled at critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and other key skills. So in response to your charge, an important first step was to initiate the development of the SPS learning model. And you see two key purposes have been identified for that model. The first is to communicate what key capabilities not all students, but specifically Springfield Public School students will need to be successful in the 21st century, and then to use that in addition to guide instruction and all of the processes that support instruction. Previously, when we provided an update to you, we shared a couple of examples because we throw around the phrase learning model a lot of what that might look like. So I want to remind you what we're looking for is a visual representation that will do both of those two things, communicate capabilities and guide. This is an example. This is not Springfield Public Schools model. This is an example of one from Scholastic. And you can see what this model does, and it only really does one thing, is it identifies capabilities. And you can see some of those around in the outside in the graphic. For example, in the lower left-hand corner in red, communication and collaboration. Another example, and this is one actually from a school district, Chesterfield County Public Schools, also adds, you see circled at the top, some guidance for how that might impact instruction. In Springfield Public Schools right now, we are in the process of developing a model, and the milestone tonight is that we have accomplished the first part of that, and that is our community of stakeholders has identified those key capabilities that we believe students most need to be successful. This was initiated last January, and it was initiated through the deployment of an advisory team who were charged to identify those key capabilities. And you had in Attachment A in your board item a list of the members of that advisory team, which included approximately 60 people, involved community members, parents, students, and staff, and some of those faithful souls are here again tonight. They concluded their work actually in October, and we just finished with a final communication, and I would like to recognize them. They spent many hours. We met 8 times from last January through the summer, and again finished in October with a final communication just this past week. So if you're a member of the advisory team and you're here tonight, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you very much for your hard work and dedication. As a reminder, what did this group of fine stakeholders do over the last many months? 4 key things. They spent the spring from January through about June learning, looking at literature. You may recall some of you were able to attend when Ken Kay came to Springfield and shared some information and research with us. We drafted priorities as a team, and then one of the things the advisory team recommended in June was that they had identified 10 key capabilities, and they wanted to seek additional feedback from our communities. And so through the summer, we developed a plan and deployed that in August to get more feedback, and specifically, we did that through surveys, and we had 972 teachers in Springfield Public Schools complete the survey. We surveyed broader community through a phone surveying process. We had 301 community members provide feedback, and also through business feedback. We had 50 businesses that participated in providing us feedback. And then this fall, September and October, the advisory team met and analyzed those results from our stakeholders, and finally in October identified what those key capabilities would be. So tonight we're pleased to share with you the work of the advisory team. team. And you see on the screen, and I want to reiterate, this is not the model. This is just a visible representation of the capabilities that will be included in the model as the model continues to be developed. You can first see that at the top and also at the bottom, in many ways, the foundation is relevant and rigorous curriculum. Because although we've identified as a team the key capabilities our students will need that will focus on of critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, we can't communicate, critically think, and collaborate without deep and profound knowledge and thoughtful curriculum. The advisory team also identified some capabilities that would be integrated, and you can see the arrows going both directions. The idea being, for example, that to critically think, we are applying learning, and to apply learning, we must critically think. Through communication, we can apply learning, and by applying learning, we may practice or develop the skill of communication, and the same is true for collaboration. So as we continue to develop the model, the teacher teams will be working on that. We'll be looking to integrate those that you see as integrated capabilities, but our key focus will be on relevant and rigorous curriculum, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And then finally, the advisory team recommended that there were 3 capabilities that really serve as catalysts or vehicles for the development of the other capabilities. And those were identified, and you heard some of these mentioned by our students tonight as they talked with you and shared their experiences. Digital literacy, global perspectives, and that work ethic, which was a strong piece of feedback from our community, our business, and our teachers. Finally, as a board, we thought you might be interested in knowing what our next steps would be. Our advisory team has identified those capabilities, and the steering team, which is a subgroup of the advisory team, is currently and has been for many months doing a research review. And you see there on the left side of the screen a key source that we're using. It's actually a meta-analysis. It's actually 800 meta-analyses of what particular strategies and variables most impact student achievement. And we're looking for 4 to 6 key things that we can focus on as a district. Doug Reeves, who you're familiar probably with as a national expert, he's coming this summer as part of an opportunity we have in Springfield with a local organization. And he says when we try to focus on more than 6 things at a time, we're probably headed for failure. So what we're looking at is trying to identify some key things that we can focus on in all of our classrooms. Our teachers this spring will convene teams of teachers together to take those 3 key capabilities of critical thinking, collaboration, and communication and operationally define those so we know what those are going to look like in the classroom at different grade levels. Thank you for your vision. I also want to share with you that Springfield Public Schools is one of 20 districts in the nation that's been identified as being a leading cutting edge with 21st century capabilities and have been invited to be part of a national professional learning community. So we'll have the opportunity to work with other districts that are deploying this, and it was by invitation only, and it was much because of your foresight that Springfield has been invited to be part of that national professional learning community. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Ms. Kistner?
Just a comment. One of the things that was interesting, I think, to most of the group was, we sent out some of these ideas that we had of what we thought was important, and one of the things that scored really high in the community, the business community especially, and not so high amongst, staff and the group was work ethic. That was kind of looked at in the business community as, really important skill for kids to have, and which I think we all thought was kind of interesting, and one of the reasons we put that in there because it did, kind of elevate during those surveys with the business community.
Scal?
Just from a personal perspective, you can have students that have different academic abilities or intellectual abilities, but if they learn to work hard in their schoolwork, that translates into not only a good work ethic in college or vocational training, but then translates, I think, into their eventual vocation. But I mean, I've seen it personally that because there's a lot of smart kids that are pretty lazy. Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of kids that maybe don't have that natural intelligence, but have learned to work hard that actually are able to achieve. at a greater level. So I think I'm glad that's included. I think that's important, and I think it's something that seems to, a lot of these other terms I think generationally sometimes get lost with our stakeholders. But I think work ethic is something that universally can be identified as something we all know.
And I
what
think
that
a
means.
really important thing that you charged us with was making sure that this was what our community wanted. And that is a perfect example, because nationally, if you look at the terminology that we call work ethic in the Ozarks, it's called self-directedness, which would have meant not nearly as much to our community as work ethic. So that was an important reason for involving our community. And I'd also say that I think if you asked or walked into any of our classrooms, our teachers, about communication and collaboration and critical thinking, they would tell you they're already doing those things with kids. We have an exceptional group of professional educators, but this is about us as a district being explicit in teaching, assessing, and supporting our teachers in using those skills to engage students to learning even deeper content.
Intentionality.
Well, just comment one question as well. And I think I was going to say that because the community hears this, and there's going to be some in the community say, well, geez, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, we've been doing that for 100 years. And I'm sure somebody come up and say just that. But, and we have done it. I mean, it's really simple, but it's the idea of being intentional about it and then assessing it to make sure we're getting that and not just kind of hit and miss. Some kids get it, some teachers do it. Being intentional and doing that because we know how important it is. The question I had, and I emailed this to you, but one of the things that in terms of assessing these skills is we're going to have a workforce that understands these skills and critically thinks so that the workforce models these things back to the kids. And what my question is whether or not there's the idea at least of going and partnering with schools of education so that the workforce coming to work at Springfield Public Schools are kind of again seamlessly ready to model and teach these capabilities, and whether that's something that's on the horizon.
We actually had representatives from our local universities you probably saw as part of the advisory team, and we have already had conversations directly with at least one of them about this work, and they have indicated that they're very willing to collaborate with us to try to align some of the work that they do, realizing that we are their customers in the College of Education as a school district and hire many of the students that come from the university. So my sense is that they're very willing to look at what our needs are and work with us in the future.
Ms. Hosmer, thanks for participating on that advisory team. I know it's time spent. And
I enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed reading that 800 meta-analyses of.
Another side to you.
Yeah, I started saying, can you summarize that in about 2 minutes?
Well, one thing I will bring up on that, and I've shared this with Anita, is one of the really high things is giving teachers immediate feedback as to how they're doing. Right. And so, because teachers really want to get better, and if you give them objective, good feedback, then they get better, and they'll do it during the course of a year as opposed to end of the year feedback and try to get better for next year. Is that if you can give them that constant feedback. That's a real high indicator of achievement, which I think is, maybe it's not surprising, but it's, again, something that you can be intentional about and works. So.
Okay, thank you. And that's true for students, too.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to action items for separate consideration. Item 7.01, revision of Board Policy FF, naming new and existing facilities. This is the second reading. There's been no changes in that. Are there any questions or comments about that policy? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve policy FF.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Callen, second by Dr. Prater, that the board approve policy FF, naming new and existing facilities. Any questions, comments? Dr. Holman?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to Item 7.02, revision of board policy JED, student absences and excuses. This is also a second reading. And it hasn't changed since first reading. And I would entertain a motion to.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Prater and a second by Ms. Callan that the board approve policy JED, student absences and excuses. Any questions? Comments? Mr. Osborne.
Aye.
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 Item 7.03, strategic plan and comprehensive school improvement plan, CSIP. Ms.
Dr. Ritter, Mr. Lee, school board members, this item was initially presented to you as an information item for your review at the November meeting. State and federal mandates require that we approve a comprehensive school improvement plan each year, and currently our district strategic plan serves as that CSIP for us. So it is, SP5 is aligned with our CSIP in the required EPEGS format. In an effort to enhance and facilitate your agenda, we are now kind of coordinating these two items and presenting them to you at one time. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them regarding our SP5 and the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan.
Questions from Ms. Bledsoe? Okay, I need a vote. I need a motion.
I'll move for acceptance.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Dr. Prater and a second by Ms. Twitty that the board approve SP5 and the related comprehensive school improvement plan, better known as CSIP. Questions, comments about? Dr. Holman?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Ms. Bledsoe. Item 7.04, third-party administrator services for workers' comp. Mr. Jonas?
Thank you. We entered into an agreement with Corporate Claims Management Incorporated on January 1st, 2008, and that contract expires December 31. Over that 3-year period, CCMI has provided outstanding service and has been a partner of the Risk Management Department. If we were to change providers, it would require a conversion cost, and when we changed the providers 3 years ago, there was a cost of about $21,000. The relationship with CCMI has been very beneficial to the district. I know a couple of years ago we were able to reduce our workers' comp budget by about $400,000. The cost for CCMI for 2010 is estimated at $38,500. CCMI is proposing a 5% increase, which would result in an increase of about $1,925 for a total estimate of $40,425. And at this time, we ask that the board authorize the administration to renew the contract with CCMI.
Question for Mr. Jonas.
I see on the action item that their actual in 07, it was assumed it would be a $70,000 fee, and we actually paid about $20,000 less.
Right, because of the number, it's transactional based, and because of the reduction in number of transactions.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah. Okay. So we can take $20,000 off this. I'm guessing. Is that right? Is that what we're hoping?
We're hoping, yes.
Don't count that yet.
I wouldn't count on that one. Not yet.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Callan, a second by Dr. Holman. The board authorize the administration to renew its contract with Corporate Claims Management for workers' compensation and third-party administration for a term of 1 year beginning January 1. Any questions? Mr. Osborne?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
there. Treasurer's report.
If you will pull up the financial statement, once again, the revenue numbers are coming in good. Both the property taxes and the sales taxes for November were better than last year. Probably the most significant numbers to look at on the financial statement, total revenue so far this year is 19.5% of budget, and last year it was only 17% of the annual amount. So when that tracks better than last year, that's good news. And conversely, the total expenditures is 29.47% for this year as a percentage of budget, and last year at this time it was 29.53%. So once again, better than last year. And I do want to give you a little insight when we have board meetings after about the 12th or 13th of the month. We do have the property tax totals for the month, and December is the first month where we get a significant amount of money. Last year for December, we received $7.6 million in operating funds, and this year we received $14.7 million. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to receive $7.1 million more in property taxes. It just means people paid sooner. And actually, John Everest and I had a conversation about that, and I recently have had occasion to line up a mortgage, and one thing that I noticed was different than what I'd experienced in the past is they gave me a lower interest rate if I paid escrow. And I think that's one of the changes that has happened as a result of the tightening of credit. So we're very pleased with that number. What that did do is it helped us avoid having to borrow money in December. I will say we did have to borrow for the first time some money in November. We borrowed about $2 million. The total cost for that borrowing will be between $4,000 and $5,000. So, but it tells you how tight we are on our maintaining the 10% fund balance.
It's amazing how we've changed all of our terms of what's good and what's
Yes.
our level, our standard level has changed over the last couple of years of what's better and what's good and what's
I think Steve's word
not
was
as bad.
fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Any questions for Ms. Chodes on the treasurer's report? Entertain a motion to.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Prater and a second by Ms. Twitty to approve the treasurer's report as presented. Any questions? Dr. Holman?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, routine action items. I would entertain a motion to approve the routine action item as submitted.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Callan, second by Dr. Holman, that the board approve each of the routine action item as submitted. Any questions? Dr. Holman?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Moving on, comments from the board. Legislative report.
We're meeting tomorrow at a joint meeting with the county. Thursday. Jeez, I'm sorry. Thursday with the county, the city, the library, and city utilities with legislators, and we have 10 commitments of legislators that'll be there. So that's pretty good. And so anyway, the focus of that discussion is going to be on local control, economic development, and accountability. And accountability discussion is going to be really a challenge to hold legislators accountable, and also it goes both ways as far as accountability is concerned. So anyway, that discussion will be Thursday. I believe it's at 7:30 at Archives Building or something like that.
The Greene County Archives.
Okay.
No, Greene County voting election.
It's a building
It's
across.
adjacent to the archive.
It's
Yeah,
across
it's-
from our safety. That's what I was told. I've
It's
been
an
there.
election building or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's one just north of the Judicial Center.
Educationally, the focus of the legislature that we're hearing right now, because I've been in 3 different sessions with legislators in small group discussions, is they're moving away from open enrollment discussions. I think that's going to be gone, and I think they're looking more into working through the teacher tenure, and so the teacher tenure, the sense that we're having there is a lot of states have done this, is where they've not a lot, a couple states have done this, of where the tenure goes away, but due process applies to all teachers from as soon as they're hired, and that's really where associations really appreciate that and see a lot of empowerment in teachers and going that route as opposed to defending tenure. So anyway, I don't know which way that's going to go, but that seems to be a focus of the legislature as far as that is, other than the financial picture. Those seem to be the issues.
Have there been pre-filed bills on that?
No, I think that's still being tested out there, but I know they're working with both associations on that, Mr. Hosmer. And that came from Shane Schuler and the House, and then also the Senate. The Senate is having conversations around that too. So,
Hadn't heard that.
yeah, that's as of late last week.
Any other legislative future issues? I've got one item. Dr. Ritter and I will be meeting on January 6th, we're meeting with the superintendent and board presidents of St. Louis and Kansas City. Really for the first time that's ever happened, I think, of coming together and as the 3 largest districts in the state of Missouri and some commonality. And just talking about whether it be legislative issues or common issues, whether it be urban issues that we need to address, and really creating the dialogue between the 3 districts that's never been there before. It's been a long time trying to get it together, but we've got that scheduled for January 6th. So our next board meeting, I'll have an opportunity to report back with some of that discussion and see how that went. I'm encouraged that we're going to sit down and meet with them, and MSBA is kind of sponsoring. They're holding it for us so that we'll be able to sit down and have that discussion and talk about legislative priorities, talk about urban issues, and some of the common things that we might have. I mean, they're very different, but still, there are some things that we can address together as a group. So,
which board in St. Louis are you meeting?
Rick Sullivan's going to be there.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
From the appointed board.
Appointed board.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's going to be there along with Akins, who's the superintendent, and I think his name is Akins. Adams.
I just noticed that they're talking about board elections in St. Louis. I saw an article, so I guess they're still electing members
Right,
of the
they are.
board.
They still have an elected board and the appointed board.
Yeah, and they're going to have elections to the elected board who has no power.
No power whatsoever. And they
Yeah.
extended the appointed board for another two years, or at least they were talking about. It's kind of
like Napoleon at Waterloo.
It's an interesting environment up there.
The main focus of the discussion is going to be around the chaos that St. Louis and Kansas City are experiencing because of the urban culture. It's really a culture conversation and how the charters are really ruining them. And because you have silos and pulling really talented kids away from. It's going to be an interesting, very, very interesting conversation, and so the legislation that comes out of that kind of issue is really going to be a critical piece. So we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. And we'll report back in January when that's over.
Gary, I have one future issue.
Yes, Kim?
One of the things I would like to do, we haven't done this in a while. We do plus deltas every meeting, and we really haven't reviewed those in a while to see if there's a pattern. Like a super freezing off boardroom. But I no.
We fixed it.
Or an overheated boardroom.
I think I put that on the deltas for the last.
It was warm tonight.
Oh, when we walked in.
Yeah, and then
It's cold now? Oh.
But, no, all joking aside, I think there's some other things that
We have not done that in a long time.
we have not done it in a long time, and I would like to ask that we could do
Build
that.
it.
Okay.
Maybe at a meeting that is not as busy as this one was. But
Any other? Okay.
or get Gene and I a space heater.
Yeah,
Whatever.
or we'll be happy with a heater.
I'll
right
bring
there.
coffee next time.
That would be good too. Coffee and that space heater.
That's been promised for 5 years.
Empty promises.
We could provide some Carhartt
I've never
overalls or something.
been an
Okay.
agent.
Okay, we're
All
going
right,
to get you
we're,
coffee.
I'm losing control here.
You're losing them, guy.
Item 10, financial report. In your board docs is the financial and operations report for November, so hopefully you'll have a chance to take a look at that. Reminder, plus Delta. Make note of plus Delta. We don't have an executive session tonight, so I certainly want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we won't meet again until next year, and so
Do we have back-to-back meetings in January? Is that how?
yeah, it's a week apart.
So
Yes,
the first
back-to-back.
one's the.
11 and 18.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
By the way, a salute to legislators, January 27th. Put that on your schedule.
26, isn't it?
Is it 26?
I believe it's 26th.
Oh,
That's the Wednesday.
okay.
Yeah, 26th.
26th. Anyway, get that on your schedule. Anything else?
I entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. And second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Awesome. I don't know if I really am excited about going to my next meeting.